Subscribe to Techo on YouTube or you will forever be a bot at Fortnite.
Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So, as you might know already, Epic Games recently announced that throughout 2021, a lot of their focus is going to be on trio tournaments. With that in mind, I've decided to make a fully updated trio guide for you guys, where I'll be discussing everything you'll need to know, from how you can find a good team, to how you can practice optimally, up to how you can adjust your strategy to fit your skill set. But with that said, if you go on to enjoy this video, be sure to drop a like on it, and consider subscribing too if you want to see more content just like this in the future. And with that said, let's hop right into it. So, one of the biggest struggles a lot of you newer competitive players are going to have when it comes to trios is going to be finding good teammates. Especially since Epic has pretty much confirmed that their main focus in 2021 is going to be trios, it's more important than ever to find the best teammates that you can possibly find. My first huge tip when it comes to finding teammates is to not set any crazy standards. Since trios is presumably going to be the main mode for a long time, you're going to have plenty of time to practice and get really good with your team, so finding teammates that you enjoy playing and practicing with is going to be the most important thing here. Obviously, you're going to want to find teammates who are at least fairly close to your skill level, but there's no need to look for the perfect players since you'll have so much time to practice and make it work. When it comes to actually finding your teammates, the biggest thing that I'd recommend doing is going into a Discord server and writing up somewhat of a quote-unquote resume about yourself to find potential teammates. Obviously, you don't need to write like a full application like a job to find a teammate, but including a few things like your power ranking or earnings, what platform and input you play on, and what skill set you can offer can be really valuable. From there, you can toss your message into the looking for group chats in whatever server you're in and wait for players to DM you, and in the meantime, you can also DM some other players as well. Finding the best team is really, honestly, it's a long process, and chances are it's going to take quite a few tryouts for you to actually find the best teammate. So my biggest advice is to simply stay patient. It's going to take a while inevitably to find the best teammate. Obviously, you're receiving a lot in return and you're benefiting a lot, so just stick through it, it's worth it. And on the topic of finding teammates, if you guys need a place to look for teammates, then be sure to join my Discord server, which is going to be linked down in the description. In this server, we've got a ton of looking for group chats where you can find people to try out with for trios, so I'd strongly recommend starting there. If you want to check out the server, it's going to be the top link in the description. But anyway, once you find a good team to play trios with, it's going to be critical to get some good practice in. When it comes to team modes, it's so important to be a good team compared to everyone being good on their own. What I mean is basically this. A good team that may not be as insane individually, as in not the most insane solo players in the world, is much better than 3 insane solo players who can't play well together. Practicing as a team and as a unit and building chemistry is going to be one of the most important things for improving as a trio and placing high in tournaments. So with that said, my biggest recommendation for practicing as a trio in this season, similar to other recent seasons, is going to be Arena. To be completely honest, things like zone rule scrims and 3v3s are really just outdated as practice methods by now. Arena really just allows you to practice everything in one place. Early game, fighting, rotations, and all that stuff. So, if you're trying to improve as a trio, the biggest thing that I would recommend is starting by grinding as much Arena as you can. However, I still do recommend doing things like 3v3s, zone rule scrims, and stuff like that, but only as a supplement to your main practice. For example, if you need to work on your chemistry in fights, then 3v3s might be a good supplement. Or if you need to work on your endgame in particular, playing some zone rule scrims in a server like Atlantis could be a pretty good way to improve that. But the mistake that a lot of players make when it comes to this is doing the majority of their practice using a method that's meant to be used supplementally. So basically, I'd recommend making Arena your main practice method for trios, but also using other forms of practice as a supplement so you can target particular skills. Alongside that, another huge tip that I have when it comes to practice is to try and play every single tournament that you can play. Arena and all the other methods are obviously good practice, but nothing quite matches playing in an actual tournament environment, obviously in the real environment in a legit format where everything is basically exactly what you're going to see in the real thing. So whenever you see a tournament available to play with your trio, try to hop in and give it a shot because that's one of the most realistic ways to practice and improve as a team. Another thing I want to briefly mention in terms of practice is that if you're starting to reach a much higher level in trios and feel like your improvement is slowing down, then I very strongly recommend that you start VOD reviewing your games as a team to spot your mistakes and what you can improve on. All you gotta do is one of two things, either record your gameplay or just turn on replays in game, and then simply review your games as a team to figure out what you can work on. VOD reviewing is honestly super important to reach a high level, and it's something I really don't see enough players doing nowadays. The next thing I want to discuss in today's video is going to be the optimal playstyle for trios, as this is something that has changed a fair bit in Season 5. So as you probably know, in Season 4 we had a very W key type meta with the pump shotgun, tons of mobility, and it was honestly very beneficial to play aggressive in both team modes and solos. But in this new season, some mobility has been removed from the game, and one of the biggest changes has been the removal of the pump shotgun, so your playstyle is going to be a bit different now compared to previously. To put it simply, this season is much more of a passive meta than before. With the reduced mobility, removal of the pump, and the addition of the charge, which is a much more slower paced weapon, it's really just less viable to play super aggressive like some of us would in previous seasons. Instead, it's better to start off the game by landing at a fairly passive spot, maybe with 2 other teams maximum, and then playing out the early game fairly safe to get some good loot. Once you finish looting up your POI, I'd recommend only taking intelligent fights. Even if you've got insane loot, this season is still a lot more clunky in terms of fighting, and it's a lot more difficult to wipe people out fast, so it's really not worth the time and risk you'd be taking if you went into a scuffed fight in mid-game. Another huge tip I have for trios is fishing. In this season, fishing is super OP as fish obviously pop fast and give you a ton of HP, and you can also get a ton of loot from fishing as well. And honestly, not many teams in your average trio arena match or even in a trio tournament match are going to be taking full advantage of fishing. What I'd recommend doing is having one designated fisher for each game, who essentially loots up with the team and helps wipe out the other teams in your POI. Then once the coast is clear, everybody's dead, then they go off and start fishing up loot for the rest of the team. Honestly guys, fishing is super helpful in this season and is probably going to continue to be that way for a while, so I strongly recommend starting to implement it into your playstyle as soon as possible. What I recommend doing is playing some games and honestly just trying a bunch of different strategies, as a lot of it is just going to come down to pure trial and error, along with reviewing your gameplay to find adjustments you can make to improve you and your team's performance. I know this does sound like a bit of a chore at first, reviewing a bunch of gameplay and developing a bunch of strategies for your games, but honestly, once you figure out what you're doing and learn some more about your team, it's really not that difficult at all. But with all that said guys, that's going to wrap it up for today's video. Hopefully these tips help you out a bunch to start dominating trios in Season 5 and hopefully into future seasons and tournaments as well. If you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate it a lot if you guys could drop a like and consider subscribing if you want to see more videos just like this. I'm starting to grind out a ton of videos. I'm trying to do every 2 days right now, aka every other day. So be sure to turn on those post notifications and stay tuned. Anyway guys, thank you all so much for watching this video and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye for now.